Roland Barthes, as we have discussed it in our previous class, is a chapter, is an important writer who is a very important scholar of linguistic background. We are going to study Roland Barthes in paper 4th of PG course in English. Today we will specially discuss the writings and ideas of Roland Barthes. Barthes' earliest ideas reacted to the trend of existentialist philosophy. You know very well that the existentialist philosophy was very important, was very prominent in the France during 1940s. The special feature of this existential movement was that it was specifically figured ahead of existentialism, which was started by Sartre. Sartre wrote very important book in 1947. The name of the book was What is Literature? Of course, this question has been discussed from Aristotle to Sartre. Even Leo Tolstoy tried to explain what is literature, what's art, whether art for art's sake, art for life's sake. All these discussions are there around this point. So Sartre's stand or Sartre's view of literature was quite different. Sartre says it expresses a disenchantment both with established forms of writing and it's more experimental. And Sartre belongs to avant-garde movement, a form which he feels alienate readers. Roland Barthes' response was to try to discover that which may be considered unique and original in writing. Writing has many angles. It has a linguistic aspect, it has cultural aspect, it has a philosophical aspect. So which has to be considered seriously? So he is putting Barthes' response was to try to discourse or to discover, so which may be considered unique amongst all this. So in writing Degree Zero, which was published in 1953, Barthes argues that convention inform both language and style. Of course, we have another version of defining language. What is language? There is a very established answer, very popular answer. Language is a style. Style is a language. But Barthes' argument is quite different. He says that conventions inform both language and style, rendering neither purely creative. Instead, form, or what Barthes calls writing, specific way an individual chooses to manipulate conventions of style for a desired effect. He says it is the unique and creative act. Language is very creative and unique act. However, a writer's form is vulnerable to becoming a convention once it has been made available to the public. So this means, Barthes says, this means that creative is an ongoing process It is not an end, it's not a goal. Creativity is an ongoing process of continual change and reaction. That's where the book gets formed. That's where the idea gets forming. In Michelet, a critical analysis of one of the important writings, Roland Barthes has a different view of literature. He says the relation between literature and the author is not subject, rather it's object. There is no one meaning possible in a text, but meaning is multifarious. And he clearly declares that respect to the author is not necessary, but understanding and effort in understanding the author is very important. And many a time we have given the importance to the author more than he deserves, or we have kept some of the very important writings and the authors out of the area of discussion only because there were some other important so-called established, so-called popularly identified characters or writers in the same era. So, to know the meaning of a text, the effort of the writer, a reader needs entirely an independent approach to the text. So, Roland Barthes' ideas were revolutionary. They were not traditional. They are romantic in their true sense. That's why his ideas were considered entirely new, and they brought a great change in the area of linguistics, that too especially in the field of semiotics. Consequently, Roland Barthes became one of the important propagators of semiotics. Semiotics is the part of linguistic studies. Both linguistics and semiotics are unavoidable parts of structuralism. You know very well that the 20th century field of criticism is highly dominated and influenced by structuralist movement and structuralist writers. Structuralists. All these writers like Sartre, Lacan, Lévi-Strauss, Roland Barthes and Jean Genet, all they are basically the structuralists. Now you cannot expect a criticism of any text, irrespective of the language and country, without the influence or without the proper understanding of all these writers. So, in paper 4th of critical theory of PG course in English, we are going to study the most important 7 important points of arguments made by Roland Barthes seriously within the space of structuralism.